Hello and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. My name is Joe, and with me, as always, is
Data?
Jack.
And Jamie.
Yes, and we are talking about Mistborn, the Hero of Ages. We are looking over chapters 16 through 20 this week, wherein Spook is burning stuff while he's asleep, which is pretty crazy. And then there's some socialist stuff that goes on, and then there's a very big what moment when we find out that Quellion and his gang have mist powers. Definitely bourgeois. Then we watch as Ellen's forces are taken out by the mist, including our friend Captain Demu. Then we watch Breeze and Arian get pulled by soldiers as if they are king and queen of the world. Sace is super depressed, and then he breaks off from the group to go see the Terracemen, and we get a what moment when they call him Your Majesty. So Sace is king, apparently, which is pretty cool. And then Spook almost dies in a fire, and then Kelsier shows up and gives him some weird powers. It's another big what moment. And then Tensun is making plans, scheming, trying to basically cover his tracks. So, and that is where we are this week. So hold on to something. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
As the towers of steel and stone crumble to dust, the foundations of our hope begin to rust. Choking fear, screaming sound, as the reaper comes to ground. You turn to face it down because you must. And when the world starts to burn, at the point of no return, keep a hold of your conviction, tear out the affliction, before the world turns black. Stand up and take it back.
Yep, yeah, some interesting and weird things happen in this set of chapters. What did you guys think of these 5 this time chapters?
There were some ups, there were some downs. Spook's acting a fool for sure, but then he gets some crazy Kelsier back from the mist kind of powers, I guess. And then we were expecting the Ellen's forces to get hit pretty hard by the mists, and they just gave us a little taste of Sace going back to the Terracemen. Interesting that they're at the pits of Hathsin, but the way that it's described, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I am still most interested in the Tensun story, so I'm ready for that to continue. But overall, these were good. Just a lot of stuff to kind of like. These were chapters was like, well, that just raises further questions. Like we're just gonna have to figure out what's going on because there's weird stuff going on.
You've repeatedly predicted that Kelsier was going to show back up, so
yeah, as like a joke. But I guess my joking prediction was correct somehow.
The Discord chat has lost their mind.
Yeah, they're like, he knew he was coming back. He cheated. He ran ahead. No, I don't know. How would I no, I was joking. Anytime I said he was coming back, I thought he was dead. He probably is dead. This is probably some weird spooky mist thing.
Sure. Spooky mist with Spook. Yeah.
Spook's lost a lot of blood, so.
This is also true.
Yeah, no, these were good chapters. Yeah, 100% agree with Joe. It's just like I got no idea what the fuck's going on right now. So, like, my immediate thought when Kelsier popped out in Spook's chapters was, well, that's either a mist ghost or it's a ruin. Either way, can't see it going too well.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. My immediate thought was, holy shit, he's, like, hearing voices and stuff. This is ruin. Come to fuck with him. And then it's like, oh, no, maybe he's just heightened his perception so much he can actually hear the mist ghost when other people couldn't, and it turns out the mist ghost actually was Kelsier.
That would be interesting. So, I mean, the original mist ghost still couldn't be Kelsier because that was 1,000 years ago. But yeah, the new one could totally be. Yeah.
Well, the one that killed Ellen in the well could have been Kelsier. He's like, I'm gonna fix this. Oh my, sorry, daughter's sad now. I better undo that. Okay, never mind.
That's the way Kelsier fixes everything by stabbing it.
That's kind of his thing. But yeah, no, I enjoyed these. I like seeing what's going on in is it Urto where Spook is?
Yeah.
Like that seems like an interesting story. I'm curious to see more of Quellion and because there's obviously going to be a lot more going on in his backstory. For Christ's sake, Spook, keep it in your pants.
Bit harsh.
Once again, fucks everything up because he's trying to get laid.
You're not wrong. things really went sideways there because he had to talk to a girl.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going soft on him earlier, but now hearing Dak pile on, I'm just like, yeah, moron. Come on, really?
That was you were very restrained. But yeah, on the whole, pretty good. But yeah, want to see where it's going.
Yeah, so I liked these chapters. I thought the chapter in Urtau was pretty interesting. Definitely a surprise that there were Allomancers there, given how the citizen feels about noble blood. But it was, I guess it was a shock at first, but now I'm like, doesn't really surprise me because he's being built up to be our villain. So it makes sense that he's not exactly above board. I don't think it was Kelsier, but I like the idea of it being the mist ghost that he could communicate with, but he doesn't have any tin at the time, so he's
No.
not enhanced.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, so but I think he's just delusional from all the blood loss, and obviously things are a bit different for him not being able to sense all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I liked sort of the battle at the end, and it's like, oh my God, Spook, what's going to happen? I was like, they're not going to kill Spook yet, surely he's got more to do. As much as I'm like, Spook will probably die at some point, I don't think it's today, and we were right, so that's good. Orianne, can't say I'm shocked she's in a carriage, to be honest. Why would you get your 7,000 layers of dress dirty traversing the lands? And Tensoon's chapter as well. I'm really excited to just get him to break out. I think that'd be pretty cool. But it was nice to have a bit of interaction with Milan as well. So lots of little bits of information, nothing too dramatic apart from Spook going on. But yeah, good read.
He didn't seem like he was that interested in breaking out, but there's a little bit of sneakiness happening, so who knows?
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
some
I
knowledge.
played 50 chapters, but it's a few Tensoon chapters before he actually gets anywhere. But he's not. Look, if we get to a point where Tensoon stays in a cage this entire book, I'm gonna be
The
mad.
whole book. We go visit him periodically, and he's like, "Yep, day 100 in my cage."
Yep.
It's like the book always cuts back to Marsh. He's like, I can't escape from ruin. Cuts back to Tensoon. I can't escape the second generation.
Just the entire
Everyone's
book.
just stuck.
Until the last chapter, and then everybody gets out. It'll be awesome.
The last 3 chapters, the Sanderlanche, everyone breaks free.
Exactly. I really liked your thought that, because we talked about how Spook is he's weak from blood loss, he doesn't have his tin and stuff, but he's also been so hyped up on tin that he may be going like through withdrawals for all we know at this point from all of a sudden not having it.
Yeah, well, you look at how like a pewter drag affects Vin, because I think we've only really seen it happen to Vin so far. What Spook's going through can't be good.
No, yeah. It's got to be worse than a pewter drag. He's like a year's worth of dragging on tin.
Yeah.
It's going to cut back to him. He's going to be in the bathroom with like chopping up a line of tin and snorting it.
I mean, but he is using pewter, so whatever this ghost is telling him, whether it's Kelsier or no, like somehow he got the power to use pewter.
Unless he's gone insane.
But it said in the chapter that the pewter healed him.
Yeah, I reckon he's got pewter.
Okay.
He's got the pewter power.
Look, after Zane, I've had enough of insane horny dudes.
Yeah, no joke.
Insane dudes talking to voices that aren't there.
And he just goes about it like the wrong way. I mean, we'll get there, but I mean, it just doesn't make any sense what he's doing.
No,
he's trying to impress her by saying, "I'm gonna kill your brother."
Yeah, that's so impressive,
What?
right? I mean, nobody else has done it.
Even if she doesn't like him, I'm just like, what?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's not how you hit up the lady, Spook. You never been to a club, you don't walk up and like, I'm gonna kill your brother. Let's dance. No,
I mean, he hasn't had much success with the ladies anyway. He's just trying.
True.
Well, maybe he took the wrong lesson out of Vin's relationship with Reen. It's like, man, if I'd been around to kill Reen, Vin totally would have liked me.
Yeah.
Maybe Jamie's right. He's just trying new things. You don't make any calls, you don't make any sales, right? So
He tried to give Vin a handkerchief.
didn't work.
He was trying to be all gentlemanly. It didn't work out so well for him.
No.
Might as well just go
Yeah,
be
but he
bold.
also hadn't. Yeah, but he also hadn't had like a full conversation with her at that point. So I mean,
I didn't say Spook was right.
Okay, let's
Oh,
get
the
into
dumping on Spook is back with a vengeance.
Oh my gosh. Everyone's going to be so disappointed. Like, I thought they'd like Spook now. Okay, so our first epigraph, which I told you guys last time, I was like, you might want to read this. It relates to what we're talking to. We learn about allomantic savants and the kind of things that happen to you when you burn metal too much. I think it's interesting that he's like, people who burn bronze, like Marsh, I guess, he's like some become savants without realizing it, and they get this expanded range and stuff. But for pewter, it's like actually super dangerous, and most people die before they complete the process of becoming savants.
Reading this, I just immediately had the thought as like, so Breeze pretty much always has his brass on.
Yeah.
I wonder if he is a savant for brass, and we just haven't worked it out yet.
Could explain why he's so powerful.
Yeah, the way they describe how good he is at it, I'd say that's entirely possible. That he's just so good at it at this point that because he's just burning it constantly.
Didn't they say in the towards the end of the last book in the Siege of Luthadel? Didn't they say something like he was pretty much out and a vegetable, but still?
Yeah, while he was like having a panic attack, hiding inside a building, he was still soothing the people to keep them fighting.
Yeah. So very possibly he has reached savant or very close.
And I think maybe some of what Marsh was explaining to Vin, he's like, he teaches her how to feel the pulses and stuff, and then he gets like, if you get really good with it, you might even be able to tell when somebody's running low on metal or this or that. And I'm like, maybe like those are the kind of levels that we're talking about, where it's like when you're really good, and he just didn't realize like what has happened here. We don't even know if anyone in the world is familiar with this term. We haven't heard it used at all. It's just this the epilogue writer who's talking about it.
I talked about this could be like written much further in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like like after I don't know a couple of decades of study in a lab or something. It's like, okay, yeah, we got to name this now.
Gotta have a name for stuff. But I like the conclusion is like, one could argue that like an Inquisitor who's been transformed by a hemalurgic spike, the allomantic savant is no longer even human. Not like human the Koloss. He's totally human. And we cut to Spook, and he wakes up and burning tin while he sleeps, and he's so tinned up that he has to sleep with like earplugs of wax shoved in his ears and cloth over everything. And I was like, what if somebody was gonna like sneak up and murder you? You don't want to like ears plugged. This is a bad spy work here, but maybe it's fine.
Well, we've already established Spook doesn't think things through.
Yeah. But I also think the point is he's saying like, even with all that, I can still hear stuff. I can still see stuff. It's just this at least gets me to the point where I can sleep.
Yeah, it's a bit more bearable.
I mean,
it would be exhausting, just feeling and hearing everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they still haven't talked about like, what does he do about eating? Like, is he just eating bland food? I don't understand like how he can eat anything with his taste so amped up.
I feel like the blankets and the clothes or whatever he sleeps in it's like the feel of it must be crazy distracting. So I don't know how you sleep with that either.
Yeah, they haven't really talked much about taste or even smell. Like, this is a rundown city that's got a few slums here and there. He's got to just be like, man, this shit stinks.
He did talk about like part of it being the ability to tune out certain things. Like you tune into what you want, but you can actually tune out what you don't want to pay attention to. So maybe he's just really good at that.
Yeah, that was the first advice he like gave Vin back in the first book. Was like, it's about what you can tune out.
And they do sort of recap that here a bit, but the fact remains he's still like, he's tuning stuff out, but he is still making a point of like trying to wax in the ears so he doesn't have to tune things out. It's done for him. So
yeah.
We also learned that he apparently is sleeping all day most of the time and coming out at night, which makes sense, I guess, with how ridiculously the sun must really be horrible. And he talks about that because he's got his special glasses that he wraps the cloth around.
He invented sunglasses.
He did. He invented sunglasses. I mean, sunglasses that only work if you have such amped up senses that you can see through cloth. But still.
Yeah.
He really invented a welding mask.
Yeah, no. That's probably closer to the thing. And he goes out and we meet Dern, who is, I think it says like I forget what the title it gives him is. Spook says that he's like a beggar lord or something like that.
He's Lawrence Fishburne from John Wick.
Never saw John Wick.
Neither did I.
He shows up in Lawrence Fishburne shows up in the second one. He's basically like the king of the homeless people.
So he was like, hey, remember when we did The Matrix? Can I be in John Wick? And Keanu Reeves was like, yeah, sure.
Like John Wick 2 especially was basically just an excuse for Keanu to hang out with like all his buddies. Like, yeah, Peter Stormare from Constantine, Common from whatever that movie he did with Common was. So yeah.
Look, Peter Stormare is always good, so it's fine. Okay, so yeah, he meets up with this Dern guy, and apparently they both pretend to be beggars. Dern is the kind of beggar who, like, when he's done at the end of the day, rolls up his mat and walks around the corner to like his Mercedes and drives off. But Spook pretends to be a blind beggar, which that makes sense with the cloth over his eyes and things. And they kind of have a thing where Dern is all about the citizens' rule. It's like, look how great things are now, much better than the nobles. And at one point, he even gives him like a spiel about. He's like, "Hey, I heard Kelsier speak once. You just don't understand like what Kelsier's thing was."
I was just like, oh boy.
Yeah, Spook just wants to be like, bitch, please.
Do you know where I got my name? And then we have immediately moved into what Joe predicted with his Animal Farm thing, where the citizen shows up and Spook's like, wait a second, he's wearing red. That's not an approved color. It's like, oh no, it's okay for them now. They're allowed to wear the red.
Yep, and then they use the bourgeois noble power at the end of the chapter. It's all coming together now.
Yep, totally is Animal Farm. Mist Farm.
Well, and the funny thing is, Brandon says in the annotations, he's like, okay, look, my biggest worry about the Spook chapters is the citizen plot with the oppressive peasant regime. This is not new. In history, it's not new. In fiction, it's not new. And I only decided to use it after a great amount of consternation because I worry it's going to come off as cliched. It's difficult to get the balance down between familiar and radically new. And so he's basically like, I tried a lot of different things before I was like, this makes the most sense with like Kelsier's legacy and the way that it all builds into this. This is he tried several different kind of governments. And he's like, this is the one that fits best. I just worry that everyone's going to be like, I've seen this a million times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is cliche. That doesn't mean it's not effective or that it's not even or that it's not good. Like, I enjoy it. But, I mean, yes, I have seen it before.
Yeah, it's like Roger Ebert had this quote, which I always come back to in my head. It's like, it's not what something's about, it's how it's about it. So it's like, it doesn't matter if this is a cliche thing that's happened 1,000 times before. If you do it well, it's still good.
So, yeah, I think that, we're starting off pretty well here. We don't know where it's going to go, but it's somewhat predictable. I mean, look, if you'd asked me if this guy would, despite his hatred of noblemen, if he would want, like, to secretly have Alamancers working for him, then I'm like, yeah, no, that's the kind of person that this probably is. But I think the first time I read it, I didn't consider that before it happened either. And I was like, what? It's like, that's cheating. Oh, no, okay, yeah. It makes sense. But Spook has paid Dern for some information, and several times during what's happening, Spook's like, you got to give me more than that. That's not worth the money I paid you. And so they send these people into a house, and the citizen makes this big announcement where he's like, we gave the noblemen the chance to leave. These guys didn't want to. They're not part of our society, so it's time for them to go. And they shove them all in a house, and they light it on fire.
It just seems like a wasteful execution method.
Yeah. Right? It's like, dude, don't you guys need houses? I mean, what's going on?
And it's like, then you got to devote so much time and resources to controlling the fire and make sure it doesn't spread.
It is a strange choice.
I mean, I get why they're doing it. Dern's hint about counting the skulls pretty much seals it. It's like the people, like, they're not actually executing people in there. They're, throwing bodies in there to make it look like they have, but they're saving the people for some other purpose. Like, and putting them in a house where people can't actually see them die, and then just throwing some remains in there. It's like, obviously, we're pretending we're killing them, but we've got something else in mind. So I don't know what that is yet, but that's got to be what's going on.
That's an interesting way to think about it. I thought maybe they were going to be extra skulls in there, like they threw some enemies of the state in there along with people that were actually like noble.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking too.
We never got around to actually counting the skulls. So yeah, we don't know if there's going to be more than 10 or less than 10 or what the deal is. Spook was a little busy to actually count.
Yeah, but I like Dak's theory better because maybe they're like, so if they're noblemen, if they know that they're noble, maybe they've ascertained that these people have mist powers, and maybe there's some kind of Urto plot to sell these mistings to the Inquisitors to make more Inquisitors, like using hemalurgy.
Interesting. It makes sense that the Inquisitors would want some more Allomancers. I don't know that they seem like the kind of people who are waiting around to buy them from some random peasants, but yeah, okay. It doesn't even have to be Inquisitors. It could be like anybody who knows about hemalurgy. Like, I want to buy some powers. Get me some
That's
Allomancers.
true. Also, maybe that's how, again, I'm just spitballing. Maybe that's how Quellion and his men got their powers. They're specifically picking people out, and somehow they learned about hemalurgy, and they're doing it on themselves.
So yeah, they're not really letting the nobles live. They're just killing them their own way to steal their powers. That would make them slightly less hypocritical.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that would work, because I don't know enough about hemalurgy to understand, like, can you just shove one spike into the body and no one can see it and that works? Or is that a whole thing?
Right. Do you need a ceremony? Do you need to dance around under a blood moon? It's, we don't know all the details yet. The only time I think we've actually seen it in use is on somebody who was already an Inquisitor and they were like smashing another spike in there through a terraceman. So, But Spook and Dern have this thing where he's like, Dern's like, yeah, those are noblemen. And Spook's like, dude, their parents might have been noblemen, but these are Ska. He's like, they have noble blood. And Spook's like, dude, we all have noble blood. Like, all you have to do is look back far enough. And Dern's like, no, this is what the survivor wants. And I mean, and still, you always come back to the fact that Dern's not wrong. Kelsier loved killing noblemen. And at one point, he might have even approved of this sort of thing. Of course, it would be extremely hypocritical for Kelsier to execute people because one of their parents happened to have been noble, even though they lived as Ska their whole life, because that's exactly his deal. But, it's interesting that doesn't come up to anyone. It's like Kelsier was Mistborn, so clearly he had noble blood also. But no, we don't talk about it.
I guess for him it was more about the Ska way of life and the noble way of life versus their actual bloodline.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, what do we get the declaration from Vin in book 1? It's like, you guys may not be nobles, but you live like them.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, we reject the noble way of life. That's why we do public executions, kind of like the Lord Ruler.
I hadn't even thought of that. Shit. Yeah. Whoops. No, it's just turnabout is fair play. It's like when Coin wants to start the Hunger Games with the children of the capital.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know why we went to Hunger Games again. I'm sorry. We just did that like last week. But anyway.
Yeah. And also still haven't read all the Hunger Games books. Haven't read them between this week and last week, so I still have no idea
for you,
what you're talking about.
It's fine.
I mean, let's be real. You had no intention of doing that.
No. I already know the thing that kicks off the book series. Her, spoilers. Her sister dies. Like, I'm like, okay, I know that. I don't really care then.
But Donald Sutherland is in the movies, so that's a plus. I love Donald Sutherland.
He is pretty great.
But this is where we get Dern's like count the skulls. That's how he's going to earn his coin, by creepily being like, count the skulls, and then he leaves.
Spook's going to get to a point where there's actually 10 skulls in there, and he's like, yeah, what?
Okay, I counted
Where's
the skulls.
my money?
Is that supposed to tell me anything?
It's like he goes back, he counts the skulls, and says, well, they were exactly as many as they were meant to be. Yeah, but how many rib cages were there? No, what the fuck? What?
Count the toes.
They're selling bones to the Kandra? I don't know.
Count the pelvises. Wait, why?
Somehow. And the citizen stands up and makes a speech about how the survivor would be proud of you. The ash is a sign from him. It represents the fall of the empire.
Yeah, that's just all sorts of wrong. Like, I just want to stand up and be like, no, dude, no, that's incorrect.
Yeah, Quellion just kind of landed in Terrace after making that leap.
Yeah.
Old Terrace or new Terrace?
Either way.
They're both good.
They're both far away from where he is currently. But we find out that, I guess people have been sent out to the fields and are not allowed to come back. Like, this woman's like, can't my grandson come back just for a little while? And he's like, nope, he's needed out in the fields. Maybe someday he can come back. And then apparently Beldry, the sister, smells slightly of perfume, which is also supposed to be forbidden. Bum, bum, bum.
And if Spook says it's slightly, it must be like the tiniest hint of perfume that she's using.
It's true. Maybe she just is using soap because she took a bath, Spook, okay?
Yeah, come on, dude. Don't be a jerk.
Like, she actually just picked up the bottle and put it back down again. It's just on like a drop on her fingertips.
Right? And then Spook is like, oh, what would Kelsier do? He's really looking hard for an excuse to get close to this girl. He's like, maybe Kelsier would have tried to make an ally out of someone the citizen trusted. Yes, that's my excuse to go talk to the girl.
Also, how do you make an ally out of a woman by telling her, yo, I'm going to kill your brother?
Well, that's not the first thing he says, but I agree that he gets there pretty quickly to be trying to make an ally of her.
Right.
He
And
assumes she's miserable because of the brother.
I guess, but I mean, you know what they say about assuming things.
Correct.
Yep.
It makes you spook.
Yeah, it makes an ass out of Spook.
But I mean, he starts out, he's like, do you approve of the murders that your brother commits? And she's looking around like, who said that?
This was kind of cool how he's just like Batmaning around her.
Yeah. He's like popping around in the crowd, trying to not be seen. You think this is any different from what the Lord Ruler did? Which is exactly what we were just talking about. Like, this is an execution in the middle of the city. That's Lord Ruler style.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, who are you? And so, I mean, maybe it's working. Maybe you're approaching the ability to make an ally of her. And he's like, I'm the man who will kill your brother. It's like,
wait a minute, man. Like, whoa.
In fairness though, like if some random starts popping out of the crowd and starts throwing accusations at me, one of my first questions is probably going to be, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair, yeah.
Also, I mean, it's cool for Spook to kind of, spook around, for lack of a better term. But it's not cool.
You're right. It's totally just building up to that.
Yeah. But it's definitely not cool. Like, he's clearly talking to her while her brother is giving a speech in front of a giant crowd, and they're like standing behind outside of the crowd, easily seen. Like, you're gonna creep around in a crowd and then you're just gonna stand out in the open. Like, come on. What, use your noggin.
Well, they start in the middle of the crowd, and then they kind of stop long enough to talk back and forth that the crowd moves, and then all of a sudden the citizens just see Spook and his sister standing there.
Yeah, and I like it's genius. It's like he's standing up in front of everybody, and he's just like, wait a minute, what are you doing with my sister over there? Yep. It's just so ridiculous.
And then Spook's like, oh, crap, I overstayed my welcome here.
I was seen because I'm standing out in the open. Oh, no.
He starts to run, but the security is coming up too fast. And Spook's like, fine, let's do this. And he's ready to fight. He pulls out his cane against the swords of a bunch of other guys. Okay, good plan, Spook.
He makes a pretty good showing of himself here.
He does. I mean, it says he's trained with Ham and clubs, and he knows how to defend himself fairly well. But, I mean, he's not Finn or Ham or Kelsey or the people who could, like, seriously fight with Allomancy. And also, once the fight starts...
It's not going to be a one-sided fight.
Well, yeah, that's fair. I mean, it is kind of one-sided because there's, like, a bunch of these guys, and there's one of him. But he manages to do some work here. Breaks some dude's arm, smacks him on the head. But just before he can kind of, make... Because he's trying to, like, basically plow a hole through here so he can escape. And just as he's about to get away, there's Allomancy happening. Somebody's pushing on metal to maneuver things around so that he can't get away. And he turns around and he realizes it is coming from Quellion. Quellion's standing there with his sister staring straight at him. He's got like this concentration thing on his face. He's like, I've seen that before. That's the constipated Allomancy look or whatever. And then he also realizes that one of these guys is hitting way too hard to be just working on normal strength. This guy is a thug. So we got like a coin shot and a thug in the crowd at this point. So he's looking a little bit hypocritical.
So Quellion's a coin shot, not a lurcher?
I think so. Hold on. We go back to when he moves it. No, lurcher is pull with
and he is
iron, and coin shot is push with steel. Let me see what it says. It says Spook sword froze in the air, and he can't push forward. Somebody was pushing against it, and then he looks around and sees...
Yeah, I mean, the result would be the same.
Yeah.
I didn't remember how it was described.
Yeah, it reads to me, because it keeps saying that he pushed capital P against Spook's sword, so it reads to me like he's pushing, but I don't know that it actually says whether he's standing directly in front of Spook or directly behind Spook, so I guess it could be either way still. Okay, and then we get another thug, so there's at least 3 Allomancers here, although one of them doesn't care much about his fellow soldiers, because... while the one thug's body is between him and the other soldier, the other thug stabs through his friend to get to Spook and shoves his sword into Spook's chest, I think it says. No, it goes through the other guy's chest.
Into Spook's chest, yeah. It goes through his back into Spook's chest.
Ow. And then snaps from the weight of the dead man. So that was fun. And Spook passes out, feeling the blood on his chest. So with his heightened senses from Tin, that's got to be real unpleasant.
Oddly, he didn't feel pain. His heightened senses should have made the pain so powerful that it hit.
There it is.
There it is.
It's like, wow, I don't feel a thing. Oh, there. Shit.
This should
Did
have
you say
knocked me out.
the sword snap?
Yeah, it says the body of the dead man was a weight that finally snapped the blade.
Right. Okay, I missed that. Interesting.
And then we cut to our next epigraph, which is about the microbes, the ash-eating microbes, and enhanced plants. So Rashek got better and better with the power during the very short time he held it. It says just a matter of minutes that Rashek had the power, and he went from being an ignorant child who pushed the planet too close to the sun to an adult who could create ash mounts to finally a mature artisan who could develop plants and creatures for specific purposes. But this also tells us pretty explicitly that it was Preservation's power that he was using, because it says it shows his mindset during his time with Preservation's power. Under its influence, he was in protective mode. Instead of trying to go back and undo stuff, he was working to fix the problems that he just caused reactively. So we talked about whether he had Preservation power, Ruin power, or something else entirely, and this definitely indicates that he's working with Preservation power.
Yeah. Well, I think it indicates that he's worked with both, right? Like one he used to destroy, to like move stuff around and like create the ash mounts, and the other one he used to fix all the stuff he'd just done. At least that's the way it reads to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says he used Preservation's power. It doesn't say he didn't use Ruins.
It's true, yeah. Yeah, all it says is during his time with Preservation's power, he had this mindset. So yeah, okay. And then here's the Elend and Damu chapter where they're hanging out. They're gonna expose their people to the mist, and he's out here. He's like, "Be strong, everyone." And he's explaining why they need to do this, which we already had the explanation. So whatever. And they get into a discussion about the survivor and the Church of the Survivor. And Damu's like, you don't have to keep pretending to believe if you don't want to. And Ellen's like, no, I promised I was gonna be part of the church. I'm part of the church. And Damu's not real comfortable with it. He's just like, okay, but I mean, if you don't really believe, I don't know that the survivor would want you like.
Yeah. It's just like, if you don't believe, like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you're just gonna fake it to use the church for your benefit, like I don't know that that's cool.
And I don't know that Ellen assuages those feelings exactly. He's like, I don't really know what I believe, Damu. I mean, not in the Lord Ruler, but having something's good, right?
It's just he has the best line. He's like, well, my last god was killed by the woman I eventually married, who you claim is a religious figure, but she spurns your devotion. And then Damon's like, yep, okay, good point.
Yeah, Ellen's god got killed by his wife, and then his dad got killed by his wife. So who's next? Jeez.
Yeah, let's also not forget his brother was killed by his wife.
That's true.
Two of his brothers were killed by his wife.
They never
possibly
found
more.
out about the head explodey one.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but we know.
All of those Alamancers at that fight were his half siblings.
Yeah, but I don't think she killed all of them. I think she only, like, some of them were taken out by like Set's people or something. I don't remember. But anyway, many siblings and dad and things have been lost to his wife.
And they get into this discussion about Kelsier, and they even talk about snapping, and it's like there's this new mythology building around Kelsier where it's like Damon's like, don't you think that if Kelsier, was a normal Allomancer, he would have snapped before he went to the pits? He lived this like street life and stuff. He was a thief. Don't you think that he probably went through a lot of stuff that should have snapped him? So maybe something more powerful happened in the pits. He says Kelsier the man died in those pits, and Kelsier the survivor was born. He was granted great power and great wisdom. Okay, he wasn't that wise, Damu. I mean, I know how you feel about him, but
yeah, it's like the smallest what moment in these chapters. You're kind of like, wait, what? That doesn't sound right. I mean, the snapping thing I kind of get. It kind of sounds somewhat convincing. Like, yeah, it is kind of strange that all of these things happen in his life and that he didn't snap until this point, especially after like the death of his mother and stuff. But I mean, we know, knowing Kelsier better, know in the first book that he didn't take life all that seriously. Like, he wanted to be the best thief, sure, but he didn't take life all that seriously up until he came back from the pits. So I think while it is somewhat interesting to have that thought, like, well, maybe fate snapped him at that moment for a specific purpose, but I think it's more likely that it was just happenstance.
We also just don't know a lot about the snapping process and what's actually required to make it happen. Maybe there's a specific part of a certain type of trauma that does it, and Kelsey just never experienced that until he got to the pits. So
yeah, that's entirely possible. We really don't know that much about it.
Again, it just comes back to everyone thinks they know everything about allomancy in these books, and they fucking don't.
It's so true.
It's like, we know how snapping works. No, you don't.
Nothing can stand against Adium. Oh, Electrum. Or somebody who's just really good at fighting.
Yeah, Vin had to...
Golden Adium are the 9th and 10th medals. Nope.
Not really. Oh my gosh. We found so many medals since then, guys. You just don't even know. I like Ellen's take. He's like, okay, as a scholar, I understand what's happening here. They're gradually, like, Kelsier's becoming deified for the church because they can't continue to worship like a guy. He has to be something more than that. So the faith is evolving. There's one little bit here in the annotations about Kelsier snapping. And Brandon says, why didn't Kelsier snap before he went to the pits? I don't have an answer for you. He did have a hard life, and it is odd that he wouldn't have snapped until that moment when he saw his wife beaten to death. They say that the more powerful a person is, the more trauma it takes to get them to snap, and the more dangerous that snapping is. And that's all.
So, I mean, then we can pretty much assume that Daemu's wrong. Like, it's not some mystical deification thing. And then that also might explain, like, Vin's sister's death. If she snapped when she was a child, maybe, and she seems to be a stronger allomancer than many. Maybe, like, it was extremely dangerous when she snapped. It almost puts me in the mind of, oh shoot, what do they call it in the Harry Potter movies, the Fantastic Beasts movies? What's the that Kendra Dumbledore probably was?
I know what you're talking about. It's because the kid
Obscurus or something.
Obscurus.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You got it. It almost puts me in mind of that. It's like they're so dangerous when their magical power, like, just unleashes itself that they can't really control it. It causes destruction or whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, and we know that Kelsier messed the pits up pretty good that night, which I've always wondered about because it's like, where did he get some metal to maybe something about snapping? Like, you get like a power burst or something. I don't know. But he killed a bunch of people that night, he said. And so it's interesting. Well, we get as Ellen's kind of thinking about this, someone starts screaming and the mists have appeared. People are falling. He's like, let's ride, Daemu. And he looks back and Daemu is on the ground. I don't know, was anybody surprised that Daemu went down here?
I hadn't really thought about him not being.
Yeah.
So I guess once you sort of think about it, not really surprised that he went down, but yeah, it was sort of a bit of a shock that he had been in the part of the army that just hadn't been exposed yet.
Yeah, I was just like, really? Of all the people you haven't inoculated, this guy? One of your main generals?
Yeah, and I think that's what Ellen kind of says that in his brain, like he didn't even think about Daemu not have already been exposed to the mist.
Yeah, he says he just assumed that he, like Vin and the others, was already immune.
Well, plus it is kind of weird if you think about it, because his whole church is like, don't fear the mists. Like Kelsier said, the mists are our friend, but then he never went out in the mist.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yep. There's in the annotations he talks about, he's like, I maintain a paranoid worry that somewhere in this book or the previous one, Daemu went out in the mist and should have fallen sick then, but I can't think of an instance, and I believe I can reasonably make this the first time he's exposed. But I still worry I've missed something, and I'm sure my loyal readers will let me know. And then there's a note. It's like, okay, he would have had to have gone out in the mist after they started killing people, which happened when Vin approached the Well of Ascension. By way of trivia, the mist changed the very moment the full power of the well returned to be drawn again. So anytime Daemu went out before that wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah. But then, yeah, also, like, what I said, like, he's one of the church's most devout followers, but he's like, yeah, I don't want to go in the mist.
I guess maybe since the end of the last book, they've been so go with military stuff, he may not have been doing, his nighttime mist sermons or whatever. Yeah, I think it's a little bit weird, but it also works just because it's like now it's somebody that we know that has
Yeah,
gotten
yeah,
this
it
sickness,
shows the
so it
threat.
kind of hits you. But that's the end of that chapter. And the ash continued to fall. The next epigraph
It's
is
okay.
Rush.
Kelsier sent that, apparently.
Yeah. It's all Kelsier. It's about the fall of the Empire.
Yeah. The ash is fine.
The ashes are
Kelsier
friend.
made the
You can't
volcano.
get
Oh,
sucked
Jesus
under them.
Christ.
Yes, Kelsier. Exactly. Yeah. Somehow he made volcanoes, even though they've been around for 1,000 years. It's whatever. Okay, Rashek didn't solve all the world's problem. In fact, he created a new thing with each thing he did fix. But he was clever enough that subsequent problems were smaller than the ones before it. He did save the world. True, the near destruction was his fault in the first place, but he did an admirable job, all things considered. At least he didn't release ruin to the world as we did. That's fair.
Yeah. So it's like retroactively we're making Rashek into Doctor Doom.
Also, Sazed, I'm assuming this is Sazed is still, I'm still under the assumption that Sazed is the writer of these epigraphs. He's being very generous by saying we, because we all know it was one person that that let ruin out.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, if Sazed is the one writing it, Sazed was trying to stop it at the time. He's like trying to get there to be like, no, wait, maybe we should rethink this.
Yeah, but like then he'll take that on board as like, I failed to stop them, therefore some of this is my fault, because of course he does.
But he did tell her the last time he saw her to like go to the Well of Ascension or whatever before she and Ellen left. So maybe, I mean, he did encourage it.
Yeah. It's kind of just like, yes, go to the Well of Ascension, and then later on he's like, I didn't think you'd actually find it.
That's exactly what he went. That's his thing. He's like, I gave you a fake map. How did you find the real one?
Yeah. It's like, was it the South Park episode where Kyle's parents told him like he had to bring peace to some troubled country or something before they'd let him go to a concert, so he went out and did that.
Oh yeah, and then they still don't let him go.
They still didn't let him go.
Or the episode of The Simpsons where Bart tries to not hit the bird, and then and he's like, wow, you got it even with the crooked sight. Way to go, killer.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh. We cut to Sazed, and they're releasing his horse because they can no longer, it's the last of the horses, I guess. And they have to just set it free because they can't give it, they don't have enough food to give him anymore. And they're like, oh, that's kind of sad. You think it's going to survive? And Sazed's like, yeah, probably. And Breeze is like, hey, you want to ride with us? Because he and Alrianne are in the carriage. The carriage that, because there are no more horses, is pulled by soldiers now. And another soldier holds a parasol over Breeze's head as he gets in.
Yeah, as if we needed another reason to hate Alrianne. Here it is.
Oh goodness. And Sazed is still just think all the bad thoughts, looking through his religion portfolio. But as they get into the Central Dominance, there's fields and farmers, and Sazed and Gordell have kind of an interesting conversation where they're both looking at these farmers and thinking very different thoughts.
Because Gorodil keeps showing up.
He's the captain of their expedition, I guess.
Well, he was such a minor soldier. Like, he only showed up at the end of the first book. He showed up once looking at the wells in the second book.
Yep.
And now he's back again. I was like, how do you keep finding yourself in these people's orbit? You're just like, it's not like Damu where he was a captain.
No.
I'll tell you how, Dak. It's because he's named after one of Brandon's friends.
Wait, is that this guy?
No.
I think that he said there were several. I don't know if this guy is one of them.
Yeah, I don't remember if this guy's one of them. I'm pretty, but there are a few. Like, I think Damu was one that's named after in some way a friend, and there was the guy from the Set's Keep last time. Yeah, Wallen, that's the guy. I'm gonna have to look it up. Hold on. Gordell, Mistborn. We're gonna find out. It'll say in his wiki entry if it's one of those. Yes, Gordell is based on Richard Gordon, a friend of Brandon.
Okay.
There you go.
I like we got a little bit of insight into this guy though. He's like, yeah, I joined the army. My parents disowned me. Wasn't a great day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we knew that from the first book that the people who join the Lord Ruler's forces, they're not looked on well by other Ska. They're like traitors. So Gordell's like one of the guards of the Lord Ruler's palace. That's got to be even worse than just a regular old soldier.
Yeah. The impression I got when it's like, oh, we're learning a bit more about Gordell. Is this because Damu just died and we need another supporting Ska soldier to be our friend?
You don't know that Damu's dead.
We don't know that he's not dead.
True.
Schrodinger's Damu.
It's funny because I think the next chapter we're gonna read for next week, I think the very first line answers the question of whether or not Damu died. If I remember.
Damu is dead. We buried him in the ground.
But Sazed looks out at all these farmers, and he sees, like, that their lives haven't really changed much since the fall of the Final Empire. They're still out in the fields, sweeping ash off of plants so they can survive. And Gordel sees it exactly the opposite, where he's like, this is awesome. Like, they're so happy now. They're working for themselves and to feed their family, not for, like, the nobles with whips and shit.
Yeah, it's very much like in history where indentured servants then get, like, homesteads.
Yeah.
It's like, their lives are still the same, like what they do is the same, but it's the difference between working for somebody else and not even getting to reap the benefits of your harvest and then actually feeding your family.
Yeah, it makes a big difference to the people doing the work. Sazed is not in a position to see that, and he's also kind of depressed, so you can understand why he's kind of glass half empty on this.
Yeah.
And then they decide they're going to stop at Luthadel for supplies. At least everyone else is. Sazed has somewhere else he wants to go. I like Gordel just nods. Doesn't ask Sazed what's up, where he's going. Just like, all right, you do your thing.
Just a total you do you moment.
I can't decide if Gordel should be more interested if he's supposed to be in charge of the soldiers on the expedition protecting, like, the chief ambassador of the Empire.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's probably just like, well, it's not my place to tell the ambassador he can't go somewhere.
Yeah, probably.
In his head, he's just like, I saw this guy Hulk out and punch a Kolos in the face. I'm gonna let him go.
He'll be fine.
He's fine.
Later they get stopped by, like, some inquisitors, and they're like, if this is a diplomatic mission, then where is the ambassador? And they're like, well, we have Breeze, and they're like, yeah, whatever. Where's the terraceman?
The Inquisitors probably would be looking for the terracemen, actually. That's
Yeah.
Nobody
Also,
wants.
I feel like the
Breeze.
Inquisitors stop you to talk. You're already doing a lot better.
I was gonna say, yeah. If it wouldn't be like the scene where Darth Vader wants to know where the ambassador is. It would be like the scene from Rogue One where Darth Vader slices in and cuts up everyone on his way.
Well, if they're being completely controlled by Ruin may be a little bit more subtle about it, but probably not.
I guess we don't know really. Yeah.
Man, now I just want that to happen. Some tattooed guy is just pointing at him, like, over and over. It's like, where is the ambassador?
Well, all the obligators had tattoos, so Norden could do it if you really want someone to do it.
Yeah, Norton's not an Inquisitor, though, isn't he? He's an Obligator.
That's what I said. All the obligators had tattoos.
Oh, I thought you said Inquisitor.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but Norton's on the good team, so, he's not going to be all finger pointy and be like, where is he?
Maybe they'll send him into Fadrex City so he can do that.
Yeah,
exactly. Norton's going to be the ambassador. That's probably a bad thing.
Yeah. It's not going to last long.
Is it any worse than sending Orion?
Well,
tomato.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sazed is headed for the pits of Hathsin, where we find out the Terrace people have settled after we saw them retreating from the Terrace dominance in the last book.
Or as I like to call it, New Terrace. New. You're
now just Neil.
Whoa.
But yeah, so there was already infrastructure here because of the hundreds of slaves and all the people who had to guard, the soldiers and everyone else who was stationed here during the Final Empire. So there's buildings and place for people to live, make food, all that stuff. So it seemed like a place the Terrace could go and kind of rule themselves. And they could do what they've always done, which is they are herds people. They have sheep and stuff. A hardy, short-legged breed of sheep is hanging around eating whatever grass or stuff they can find.
I just imagine, like, sheep that look like corgis since they're so short-legged. I have a corgi, so whenever I hear stubby legs, I just think of corgis.
Nice. Man, roast lamb sounds good right now.
Roasted corgi, you say? Okay.
No. Mutton, you say.
But like, as Sazed walks into town, the children run out to him or run for their parents. The sheep come up and gather around Sazed, hoping that he's bringing treats.
It's like a total Disney moment.
It kind of is. And one of them says Lord Sazed, and one of them says Your Majesty, and Sazed is like, please don't call me that. And then they're like, okay, well, Master Keeper, let's get you something to eat. It's a very short chapter.
It's basically just Sazed striking out, reminding us the Gardel's alive.
The Ska are kind of happy now. Good for them.
And the Terrace are terrace people are doing okay. Good for them.
Yeah. I mean, other than the
You don't
fact
know that
that
there's keepers, but there's terrace people, so.
Yeah.
Although he does mention he's the downside that he's like, yeah, there's not that many of us left, and a lot of the men are eunuchs. So, he says there were perhaps 40,000 of them left, which is kind of a lot. I don't know
That's decent sized people.
Yeah.
I mean, versus however many they had before.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, yeah, but it's not like they're if there's
They're not down
enough
to their last
people,
40 people.
Mhm.
yeah, they should still be able to repopulate.
Well, except for all the eunuchs.
Well, I mean, how many? I guess it's how many of them are eunuchs and how many of them aren't.
It's not specific.
Does it say
about
they're
that.
mostly eunuchs?
It says a good
say
many of the men were eunuchs, is what it says.
Okay.
So
let's
I don't
just
know
say
what a good many is.
50%. Let's say 50%. So with
Okay, that's
20,000 whole people, you think you could repopulate?
Well, the women probably aren't eunuchs, so you would have 20,000 women and 10,000 men who could breed, theoretically.
Yeah, depending
Yeah, you
on
can
the
make a few
ratio of
generations
men
out
to
of that.
So every male gets 2 wives, and they're good.
Gotcha.
Anyway, that sounds really
How do
really
we
sexist to
get
say
here?
that out loud, but it's math is what it was. It wasn't.
Yeah. We're these are fictional characters. Come on.
So next chapter, the epigraph this is the one that I accidentally spoiled earlier because I thought it was mentioned somewhere else, but it's like the ash was black and it probably should not have been because most ash is like gray or white when it comes from volcanoes, but this was specially designed ash. Or he's like, or maybe it was just Ruin's power.
Well, I feel like a darker color makes sense if you're trying to like block out harsh sunlight and everything like that.
Ash will blot out the sun.
That was the point of the ash, was to reflect the sunlight. So yeah, that makes sense. So we cut back to Spook.
It's just their way of going on to Breeze about when Breeze is complaining. It's like, why make it black? That's such a boring color. And it's like, there was a reason, damn it.
Yeah. Don't insult the Lord Ruler's fashion sense. He had a good reason for the black.
Oh, he's spinning in his grave.
Oh, that's an interesting. Somewhere in the annotations in the very first book, when the Lord Ruler shows up, he's wearing like black and white. And of course, I didn't read it in the annotations at the time, but it was Brandon says that it was because he was showing that he was both ruin and preservation, and that's why he was chose this style of. Anyway, random fun fact about the Lord Ruler's fashion sense, since we were on the subject.
What did they do with his body?
That's an excellent question. It had grown super old, and yeah, I don't know.
They gave it to Wakanda.
For some reason, I heard they gave it to Wakanda, and I was like,
Wakanda. Yeah. Lord Ruler's in Wakanda forever.
that would have been a thing.
Wakanda forever? Sorry.
Chadwick Boseman, good guy.
R.I.P.
Okay, random voice says, "Get up, Spook! Get up, Spook! You need to get up." And
yeah, straight away, I was just like, "This is Ruin."
It is. I think Ruin is the only other time that we've heard a voice in someone's head, unless you count like Reen's voice talking to Vin from her memories or whatever, which happens a lot. But yeah, I think the God talking to Zane is the only example we have of a voice in head. So
Reen is only a couple of letters away from Ruin. Coincidence? I think not.
I think so. No, that's probably a coincidence.
It's a pronunciation problem.
Yeah, I know. Reen's name in that language is actually spelled with like 15 N's. You just don't.
Reen was actually the affectionate pet name that Vin gave Ruin, her brother. It was cute. They just let her keep going with it.
Oh
no, honey, it's Ruin. Reen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close enough.
That's why he was so angry. Get my name right.
It does mention smell here, which you mentioned before. Like, we haven't really talked about smell as one of these senses, but all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, my nose isn't sensitive enough to tell the species of wood by the scent anymore." When he wakes up and doesn't have tin. Yeah, how horrible, right?
Yeah, I missed that before.
So how useful was that to Spook?
Right? This is something he does all the time.
His uncle's a wood carver. He's like,
just
"Hey,
going-
boy, is that a cherry tree?" He's like, "Yes, sir."
Yesing of the sirs.
He's just walking around town just going, mahogany.
Mahogany.
But he wakes up, and it's like he was in a room. He knows that much. And his shoulder hurts. The wound had not been cared for, where the sword pierced him near the shoulder. Yeah, I'm sure they took care of your wound before throwing you in here. In fact,
Give him some medicine? Sure, then let's burn him.
Of course, he doesn't know at this point that they're going to burn him, so, But it's like his whole left arm doesn't work correctly because he's been stabbed near there, so that's not good. And the voice is telling him, you've lost a lot of blood, you're going to die soon, even if the flames don't get you. And Spook's like, wait a second, flames? And the voice, it's interesting because an argument could be made, like I said, that Spook is just going insane and is hearing voices for that reason. He's in shock. Bad things are happening. But the voice seems to know things that he doesn't, such as, don't look for your pouch of tin, they took that. And also the flames thing. He doesn't know about the flames until the voice tells him.
Well, he thinks he doesn't know about it because he thinks he can't smell anything, but surely he can smell something.
That's true. So maybe subconsciously he knows.
Yeah.
And he realizes that he's in a nice house, a nobleman's house, and they are burning it down. I guess that's why they're burning these buildings, because they were noblemen's houses, and you can't have regular people living in noblemen's houses now.
It still seems like, if you just demolish the building, you can still use the wood and the parts for other more productive things. Anyway, I'm overthinking this.
Noble materials. We don't use that.
Yeah, that's too fancy wood. Got to burn that down. And the voice tells him to crawl, and he starts crawling. He's like, no, not towards the flames. Think, Spook.
Dumbass.
Yeah, and this was the point at which I got an inkling, like, that seems like the way that Kelsier would talk to Spook, or anyone. Like, I kind of had an inkling, like, is this Kelsier? What's going on? Who is this?
The voice tells him the windows are boarded shut. He needs to go out the other door, go down to the second room on the left, and Spook's just, like, crawling and doing whatever the voice says. He's like, I've heard this voice before. Why do I want to do what it says?
Is it a woman?
That would explain why. So.
Yeah, it's actually just Baldra, and he's just, like, super into her.
I like the note that it's like, thieves in the city complain that ransacking these places, it wasn't worth the effort because the citizen forbids ostentation, so expensive furniture couldn't be sold even on the black market. If you got caught owning luxuries, you might end up burning to death in one of the executions. This society.
This society apparently does not have couches. That's nobleman furniture.
You sit on the floor like a ska, damn it.
But it's like, if you would just share it amongst everybody, then it's equal still.
It's true. Everybody could have a little ostentation. It's fine.
It's like, you know what, guys? We've worked hard. Let's have a nice chair.
Yeah. It's such... Spook's, like, barely conscious, so that it's just some weird conversations happening where the voice says, go to the desk, and Spook goes, I'm dead. And the voice is like, no, you're not. Go to the desk.
Wait, what? I'm not dead?
All right, if you say so. And then he sees a figure, a shadow of a person. And he's like, you? And he finds some metal in there. He's like, oh, sweet Georgia Brown, some tin. I'm going to swallow this down.
Yeah. And I want to say here for the record, if I saw Kelsier, who I believe to be dead, I would not say you. I would say Kelsier.
It's like the CinemaSins videos where somebody says something. He's like, this guy's playing the pronoun game to force the other guy to ask who he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
But he drinks it down. He's like, wait, this isn't tin. Useless. And the voice is like, no. Or the figure, rather. It's like, burn it, Spook. It's like, but it's not tin. No, the guy who owned this house was not a tin eye. Burn it anyway.
It's like, do I have to spell it out for you? Wasn't with the burn, man.
That's what I should have said.
Yeah, Spook's just a real... But, I mean, to be fair, it's like, he doesn't know he can burn pewter yet.
No, like, why would you think that?
Yeah. And
also,
then,
he's groggy as shit from working up from blood
yeah.
loss.
Ghost Kelsier, or hallucination, whatever you want to call him, then just says something really interesting where I'm like, wait a minute. Now we're speaking Khandra here. What's happening?
I've given you the blessing of pewter, Spook. That does sound like a Khandra thing. That's not exactly the words they use.
Kelsier's bones.
Yep, somebody showed up with Kelsier's bones. We do know that the Khandra had it, or had them. Like, bones are more than one thing, but And maybe we've had the discussion before, but I'm wondering if someone else could use those bones now that Orsor's the one who ate the body, and now Orsor's dead. So would anyone else know enough to use the bones to look like Kelsier? But Spook is feeling kind of good once he starts burning pewter. He's like, oh, hey, I can move. The heat's not bothering me anymore. This is kind of good. I didn't give you pewter just so you could live, Spook. I gave it to you so you could get revenge. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, and that is a very Kelsier thing to say.
You're not wrong.
That dude loves getting revenge.
But he also loves surviving. He's the survivor. I feel like you've been like,
sure,
I gave it to you so you could survive, Spook.
And
revenge. Surviving's his thing. Revenge was something he shared with everyone.
He needs his own thing.
He's like, don't rip my shit off, bro. Like, I'm the survivor. You're the avenger.
I got a copyright on Survivor. You cannot use that. But
or the I guess you're the Revenger.
Exactly, the Revenger.
Because you want revenge and you want revenge and what about you, Banner? Do you want revenge? I'm undecided.
Yeah, he's like I'm ambivalent. Thor and his inability to be creative with naming that guy. Our final epigraph is that a lot of people feel a sentient hatred in the mists, but not everybody. For some of them, even the ones that get struck down, it's just a weather phenomenon. But those it favored, it swirled around, and those it was hostile to, it pulled away from. Some felt peace, others felt hatred. It all came down to Ruin's subtle touch and how much one responded to his promptings.
So that's sorry, can't talk. Let me start over. That's me thinking like Ruin is not the mist. The mist is preservation.
Okay.
Preservation's mad at Vin for letting Ruin out, so it's not swirling around her. He's like, no, I'm not messing with you no more.
Huh. Well, okay. To be fair, as Vin and Elend were walking to the Well of Ascension in the first place, she's like, yeah, the mist is leading me. And he's like, no, it looks like it's pulling away from you.
Right, because it knew where she was going.
Okay, that's true. The mist spirit, at least, had been trying to keep her away from there the whole time.
Right.
So if those two are related, the mist and the mist spirit, then yeah, you may be right. Okay, so Tensoon is back in his cage, or in his cage. I guess we haven't seen him in the cage. We're going to for the rest of the book. Every single Tensoon chapter is going to be him in his cage. But for now, it's the first time.
Not.
Hey, we're like 25% of the way through this book already, so.
Wow.
Are we? Jesus.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of chapter 20, it's 24%. So I don't know if by the end it's 25, but yeah, we're trucking. And really, Tensoon feels insulted by the very existence of this cage. He's like, look, I am a good Contra. I'm not going to run away. I came willingly to face my punishment. Why you got to do this? This is just mean.
The dog came home like a good boy.
Good puppy. And so he decides that the second generation, they didn't need weeks to decide. They said they're going to tell him his fate in a month. They just wanted to make a show of punishing him and put him on display for everyone to see, the traitor Khandra. In all of history, no Khandra had ever been treated this way. And he thinks that his name would be a byword for shame for centuries, except they probably aren't going to get centuries. That's kind of the point. And I think it's easy to forget that Tensoon left before Vin even made it to the Well of Ascension. Like, he has no idea what happened to Vin, what's happening outside, any of this stuff. But we do find that Ruin and Preservation, he says, are the gods of the Khandra people, and they are at war again, which I think we kind of knew based on what he said about Ruin and Preservation in the last book when we first heard those names, but this is like a confirmation that these are their gods.
Yeah, he said, like, we are of Preservation, everyone else is from Ruin. It really makes it sound like Ruin is basically their devil.
Yeah, it's their devil, and everyone else is in league with the devil. We're the only good ones. Ain't that just how religions go?
Unclean.
We do get another glance at the baby Khandras. He's like 11th generations are moving along. They're just little blobs with some bones.
I just pictured this like a mother duck leading the ducklings. I just like there's like some Khandra walking around with true bones, followed by this line of blobs just going plop 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 behind. That
totally does sound like a duck and ducklings just walking across the road. It's like blob blob blob. I wonder if there's fan art of that out there. I want to see that now. But we find out that the transformation from Mistwraith to Kandra is tough. Once given a blessing, the Mistwraith loses its instincts as it gains sentience and has to relearn everything. And also, the Kandra, when they're in the homeland, they make a stew mixture of algae and fungi inside pits.
Delicious.
Well, yeah. Although he then is like, man, I wish I had some aged meat. Like, that's so much better. There's just nothing tasty about any of this, I gotta say.
That'll be his motive to get out of the cage. Won't be to help me or anything. It'll just be like, you know what? I need some meat.
Before I am trapped for all eternity, I gotta have one last hamburger.
You guys got some salami?
And in the annotations, Brandon says, so yeah, they cultivate a mixture of algae and fungus, and yes, they can survive on this. No, it does not taste very good, but it doesn't need light to grow. However, humankind could not survive on this mixture, unfortunately. However, one thing that is never brought up in the text is something that not even the Kandra know. There are several reasons the Lord Ruler created them as he did, and one of those reasons was so that there would be a people who could survive beneath the ground should the world above be destroyed by the mists. So, there's a fun fact. Apparently no one knows, so there's no way for them to tell us in the book. But I guess the epigraph writer might could have managed to tell us.
So, turns out, like, Rashek was experimenting with worm people and somehow got the Kandra.
Blobs, worms, whatever.
Yeah.
Worms are kind of blobs that have just been stretched out.
It says they created the Kandra, but we know now that the Kandra transformed into Kandra from Mistwraiths. So did he create the Mistwraiths? I don't know. Okay.
Well, Tenzin says that the Mistwraiths aren't sentient, so maybe the Mistwraiths already existed, and he used his power of preservation to create the blessings, which is apparently what grants them sentience. Maybe in that way he created them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, maybe the same way he created Inquisitors from people is, it's just Mistwraiths into Kandra.
Oops, yeah. I just sent a heart. I mean, yeah, the sentience thing, I don't know. It's just weird because I'm like, how, and we just don't know enough yet. Like, how did the Kandra bless themselves with stuff? And why is the Lord Ruler being dead make it to where they can't have more generations? Was he continuously bequeathing them blessings somehow? I'm confused.
Yeah. As much as we're learning, there's still so much we don't know. And so as he sits there in his cage, he's like, watching his people pass by. It says the 4th and 5th generations come up to spit at the ground in front of him to show their devotion to the seconds.
Yeah, super dick move.
And the 6th and 7th come up to just like shake their heads and have pity on him. And here comes Melon to be like, dude, Tensoon. He's like, go away.
This is the bit where a couple of episodes ago, like there was an annotation where Brandon talked about Melon and her relationship to Tensoon and said, yeah, I couldn't figure out where to put that in the book. Right here. It would fit so well right here.
It would have made so much sense right there, huh?
Yeah.
It's like, why is this girl so interested in helping him out? Well, here, let me tell you a story.
Gonna listen to a story about a man named Jib.
A man named Tensoon. A Kandra named Tensoon.
Yeah.
And I'll call him Tenny for short.
Yeah. Blob Gold, Kandra tea.
Aged meat. He discovered a source of aged meat and got rich among the Kandra. But Melon is here to be like,
just like a rotting carcass.
It's a crate dragon.
Nice. Good reference.
But Melon's like, they shouldn't be able to do this to you. You're nearly as old as they and far more wise. And he's like, no, shut up. The 2nd generation are in charge. And she's like, they don't got to be in charge. He's like, dude, no, shut up. It's like, we're not humans with their rebellions and upheavals. We are Kandra. We are of preservation. And she brings him some news that, like, ash is cloaking the land and the mists come during the day to kill crops and people. Ruin has returned. And he's like, oh, crap. Well, the 1st generation will do something. We have to trust. And she's like, no. They're old, forgetful, and impotent. And she's like, dude, you've changed. What happened to you, China? You used to be cool.
China's still cool. Pay later. Pay later.
Pay later. Simpsons. They should never have given the children of a new generation to be raised by a third. There are many of us young
Like
ones
sort of
that
hinting it.
Yeah, it is kind of. And so she's like, look, the seconds can't be in charge forever. How can we help you? Like, she's like, we're ready for a revolution. All we need is you to lead us. And Tensun's like, look, he can't say anything, but he's thinking, like, you're not being smart here. They're going to have a Khandra with a blessing of awareness sitting nearby so they can hear every word spoken at this cage. So he's like, no, I can't do it. I broke contract. I deserve my punishment. And she's like, but you did it for a higher good. And he's like, I guess I can convince one person at least.
I like his super obvious, at least to us, his super obvious, like, fake out. It's like, man, I sure was humiliated to wear those bones. I'd hate for that to be a part of my punishment or something. I never want to see those bones again.
Well, yeah, Malon's like, oh, so they did break you after all. That explains why you showed up using that horrible body. And that's where he gets that idea. He's like, oh yeah, no, that was the worst body ever.
It sucked so much.
Yeah.
The head scratches were terrible.
Really pot calling the kettle black. He's like, she doesn't have a human body either. What is she talking about?
Well, she has, a wood body that has, that's human-ish.
But we don't know what type of wood.
Yeah.
Spook would know.
Spook could smell it.
Yeah. She's a Spriggan or something. It's fine.
We also get a little tip here that Orsor had the blessing of potency, which Tensun must have gotten a hold of, she says, or must have inherited when he killed him. But they didn't find it when he showed up.
So blessing of potency, like, I'm wondering if that translates to pewter.
Well, she says, you want us to bring it so that you can fight, so it would be something fighty for sure, it sounds like. And I think that's what it said, like, when they sent guards to pick him up from his cell, I think he mentioned them having the blessing of potency also. So it could be similar. And he's refusing to go along with it, to come up with this plan. And after he lets the thing slip about the dog bones, he's just like, just leave me alone. I won't be a rebel against my own people. We're not humans. Just go. She's like, you were once the greatest of us. And he's thinking to himself, not really. I mean, I've become the greatest criminal in our history, but mostly by accident.
She walks away and he whispers, I'm doing it to protect you.
He's doing it for all of them. For Vin, their mother, or whatever.
Yeah, whatever she is now.
Yeah, the thing that she is. So that's the end of these 5 chapters. And so you probably noted, like I said, that several of those were quite short, which is why we did 5. Although next time they're even shorter. So anyway, let us get into predicaments, I suppose. Joe, what do you have for predigging?
Yes, let me go kind of chapter by chapter here. Spook, the Baldre thing, I don't, maybe I was just misunderstanding it, but it seemed like she actually couldn't talk and that he was just reading her lips. So my prediction is maybe that she's mute and she, like, really doesn't like anything that Quellion is doing, and maybe she will join Spook, even though he was extremely unadept at at what he did. Maybe that'll still pay off for him.
He was not the least bit smooth.
No, not smooth at all. I don't think Daewoo.
It's because when she asked, "Who are you?" he should have just, like, said your first line from the Spook rap.
Yeah, wasn't with the whistle. It's your boy Spook Dizzle. Yeah, she would have been like, "What the hell are you talking about?
What are you saying?"
He's like, "It's a new music I'm trying." She's like, "Yeah, try it somewhere else." I don't think Daewoo's dead. I think he'll survive the mist. Breeze and Ariane, I'm interested to see if they get to they're headed to Urto, right? So I'm interested to see, I guess, if they get to Urto before Sazed gets back with him, because I feel like that's a whole thing. Like, if Ariane shows up and is trying to, like, riot everybody, and
that would be bad.
Yeah, I just don't see that going well.
I can't see the ostentatious nature of Ulrian's outfits and Breeze's parasol going down so
Yeah,
well.
she might possibly have been the worst person to take with them for a variety of reasons, but that also is not a good thing.
They don't know how bad the anti-noble thing is, but Ulrian's not. I think Say said he was going to meet them on the highway north, so he thinks he's going to meet them up before then anyway.
Yeah, but who knows what he's doing with the Terracemen? I'm not sure why. We don't know exactly why he went back. Maybe he left. Maybe he has like a home there and he left some materials. They're propping him up as their king, I guess, because he's probably the oldest and wisest keeper and the guy who helped take down the Lord Ruler and everything else. So I guess that's why they're propping him up as king.
He's the only keeper left as far as we know at this point.
Right.
What he said earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So that since the keepers were the leaders before and now there's only one of him, I guess maybe that's why they're saying you're the king.
Default.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I think he's pretty well respected within, like, except for the synod. I think a lot of Terracemen probably did respect him, and now like he's gone. He's the last one standing. So, Spook, did he talk to Kelsier? I'm not sure. If he didn't talk to Kelsier like physically, there's gotta be some way that Kelsier is being manifested, whether it's by Khandra with bones, which would be interesting. Or I honestly think it's some, like from the mist we came, from the mist we return, like some kind of crazy metaphysical power beyond like literally Force Ghost. And if it is Kelsier as like a Force Ghost or a Mist Ghost, then I would like to say I feel like Data led us on a false trail many times by mentioning that people had asked Brandon if he would ever bring Kelsier back. And so it's like clearly he has brought him back in some form or fashion, even if it's not really him. So just putting that out there. And then Tensun, he's gonna get his bones back, and something's gonna happen, man. He's gonna be the strongest dog on 4 legs in the Contra community. So I'm excited to see. Maybe he'll split his skin open and shoot vials of acid at people. That'd be pretty sweet.
Ooh,
anyway.
Acid dog.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, to be fair, I believe what I previously said was people asked about bringing people back from the dead, and Brandon said that he didn't like that because it causes problems and it makes stuff not have stakes if people just are coming back from the dead. But he also said that's like, but if you don't do it too often and you use it, you do something really well with it, then maybe.
We all know what you were trying to do. Don't try to hide it.
He's also said that he doesn't want to do time travel, at least not like backwards time travel like at all, because it just complicates everything. Like those are the two things that he's like, I want to avoid bringing people back from the dead, and I want to not do time travel.
Right. I mean, look, the Harry Potter book series is amazing, but there are so many holes in that third book just because they travel through time that it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, time travel just always ends up making no sense. That's just how it goes. Okay. Dak, what do you have this time?
So I feel like Quellion isn't actually the power behind the city. I think Beldry is, and Quellion is just like a puppet that she's set up somehow, whether she's got really good emotional allomancy and is just writing him or whatever and making him do the bidding, or I don't know. But I feel like Beldry is really the one in charge. So I think that's going to be an additional wrinkle. For the Kandra side of things, when Tensoon said what's happening above, and like just realized, like they live underground and everything, I started thinking, so the homeland isn't a spot on the map, it's actually below everything. Is the Kandra homeland also underneath Luthadel? Like, is it under the well, maybe? I'm wondering if, like elsewhere throughout the lab, there's like all this series of interconnecting tunnels, like a Hollow Earth sort of thing going on, and that's where Rashek came down to do his experiments and create at least the Kandra. So
it does say in this chapter that the homeland is really big and like too big for the Kandra basically to live in the whole thing. So maybe that fits.
Yeah, so it's like it's like basically all underneath the continent, and like the way up and down I think is actually underneath Luthadel since it's the central point of the country. And I feel like Tensoon, like, he got away from the city very quickly in the last book. I'm like, how did he get away so without being seen at all? the city was under siege, surely they would have noticed, why is a dog coming out of the city and been eaten by the Koloss or something? So I feel like he actually got underneath the city and kept going down.
That would explain that.
So those are the two rational predictions I have for this week. I've got one irrational one, which I just because I think it will be funny. I think like throughout these books you've had the power trio of Vin, Elend, and Sazed as ultimately the core three characters, and I'm kind of pulling like there'll be a secondary trio of like their sidekicks and friends who become the real heroes of the day, and each of them will be one of the race that Rashek created. So you've got Human, the Koloss, Tensoon, the Kandra, and Marsh, the Inquisitor. They'll be like, they will combine and be like the real trio of heroes.
They're going to be a new super best friend squad? That would be an interesting combo.
Yeah. Spiky, the dog, and the troll.
See, I totally feel like we don't know the Koloss all that well. We know that they love killing each other, and they're not big fans of humans. But I feel like maybe a Koloss and a Kandra would get along. I don't know.
Yeah, but I just like the idea of like one, like we have one pretty important character from each of the races, each of the things that the Lord Ruler supposedly created. Wouldn't it be cool if they just united those three?
I agree. That would be cool. Okay, Jamie?
I don't have a lot this week, but I think regarding Spook's powers and his interaction with Kelsia or Kelsia-like, I don't think it's actually Kelsia. I did like the idea of it being sort of the mist ghost at the start of the episode, but also the thought of it being a Kandra reanimating Kelsia I thought was pretty cool as well. It also potentially could be the voice of ruin or the voice of preservation trying to work with Spook. You know, if the mists are sort of surrounding the people that they like and trying to help them, why not try and help Spook in this situation as well? I'm pretty sure he's gotten this ability from the blade rather than being gifted it by anyone. And the blade that's gone through the thug to then go into Spook's chest. I'd missed that the blade had broken, but if a bit is broken off and is still in him, it's sort of the same as putting another spike into an Inquisitor. So I think...
Oh, shit, you're right.
Yeah, I thought you'd got me when I was reading the chapters earlier, and I was like, I knew the hemalurgy.
I didn't have a clue what you were talking about.
No.
I'm just like,
You probably think,
okay, that was kind of a weird thing, but I'm just gonna...
Yeah, so whether Spook will figure out that that's how he's gotten the power, and maybe his desire to be so much more useful than he feels he is, maybe he'll look for more power, or maybe he won't figure it out, but this could be sort of how the rest of the team start to figure out what's actually happening and like how Inquisitors are made and all that sort of stuff. So it's probably going to be our introduction to the rest of the team. This form of metal magic. So in terms of something actually gifting it to him, maybe it's not, a spirit gifting it to him. He's got it this way, and something's trying to tell him that he's actually got this ability now. It'd be interesting to see if Elend had a similar experience when he was then ingesting the metal at the well. Did something sort of tell him he had it, or it was instinct and just, maybe it's different for everybody. When you snap, do you feel like something's talking to you and sort of guiding you through it? Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Well, it's interesting because I think that you were the one who said either last week or the week before that's like maybe somebody on the crew is going to end up getting hemalurgical powers, and you thought that Spook was the most likely candidate to like maybe even willingly like take some of these Inquisitor powers.
Yeah, I didn't sort of see it as a he'd sort of get caught in fight and accidentally get them.
Whoops, I accidentally got superpowers. My bad.
Yeah, but I mean, what does this open up for anyone else that is already, like, do you already have to be a misting to be able to do this? Or could they literally go around and effectively make another army of mistings or Mistborn? Like, if you get all of them, can you still burn all of them? Also, the person that the spike, or in this case the sword, runs through, do they have to die for you to get their power? And does the does the metal that delivers it actually have to be made of a specific metal to do it? So we've got a lot to learn, but I think this is all kind of lined up really nicely for Spook. And in this case, it saved his life, which is
right. That's a good
awesome for Spook.
Spook's the Inquisitor now. Cool.
So to answer at least one question, in the in the epigraph before chapter 13, the epigraph writer says, "It is not a coincidence, I believe, that death is always involved in the transfer of powers via hemalurgy."
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you wouldn't then give all of those powers to your army because you would have to kill a whole bunch of Mistings to make that happen. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, he got sorted. Imagine accident if that's what it was. If he's accidentally picked up some superpowers without even understanding what happened.
Or even the people who did it understanding.
No, yeah, like none of them, you wouldn't think, did it on purpose if they did it, right? Why would they tried to burn him to death afterwards?
Right.
So it seems unlikely that somebody was intentional.
And then
he comes out as like, you thought you killed me, but you made me stronger.
Yeah. But then also, like, if I'm somehow right and they are using hemalurgy on like by taking Mistings and then giving themselves powers, it's kind of like ironic that's like, oh, we've been doing that to pump ourselves up, but we just made this guy stronger.
Yeah, I guess that actually brings up a good question, because it's like, if your theory is right, and it's like these are not actual noblemen, these are people who they killed some noblemen and took their powers, then that thug would have been somebody who got powers via hemalurgy. Is it possible to like then take the powers from him that same way by stabbing him through the heart or whatever and to give them to someone else? Or would you just need to like take the spike that he already has? Or
could you then stab an Inquisitor through into somebody else and give them all the Inquisitor powers?
Like all the powers. Or
and what if all the extra spikes that Marsh now has are like other Inquisitors were stabbed through to give him those spikes, and he gets like ultra Inquisitor powers each time he gets stabbed through with another Inquisitor's powers.
So like Super Saiyan Blue. Got it.
Yeah, like they're just stacking that shit.
Well, it's like in that early fight scene when the Inquisitor was stabbing at Ellen with a spike. That's like he's trying to get all of Ellen's powers as well. It's like, gimme.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to take his powers. I thought he'd maybe be getting tried to control by Ruin, but yeah, that sounds interesting as well.
This hemalurgy thing's freaky. We don't know what's going on. Like, anybody could be stabbing anybody to take their shit.
What are the rules?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we learned the rules of Allomancy pretty early on, and then we kind of got a handle on Ferrochemy more or less in the first book, but this one is very mysterious still.
The only person we know who really knows how it works is Marsh, and he's not really talking right now.
No, not telling anybody. All he said was that it's messy, which, yeah, it would be. Anyway, we got 2 emails this week, and both of them are based on Joe's plea to the audience. Tell us what you think of Breeze and Alrian's relationship.
Oh, nice.
God.
So Sasha says, I don't really have strong feelings about Alrian or her relationships one way or the other. She's a bit annoying, but I don't feel the seething hatred for her that the rest of the cast does. So she goes on with some spoilery stuff. That's the main response to Joe's request.
We'll table that and come back to it.
Yeah.
And the other one is from Angela 2. And Angela says, here are my thoughts on the Breeze and Alrian relationship. I feel like they should have a cutesy name, but I have nothing. Okay, that's good.
Hold on, I can do it.
All Breeze. No, that's kind of...
no. Alrees. No. Balrian. Nope. Brienne.
Brienne?
Did it.
Or Breeze's real name is like, his last name is Ladrian, so maybe like Ladrian.
Or Ladrian?
Brienne's way better.
That just sounds like something Sylvester Stallone would yell in Rocky.
Ladrian!
What about Zian? I feel like Breeze's name, you gotta have the Z in there.
I mean, I guess. I think Brienne's great.
Okay. Joe's got his choice. Anyway, Angela says, I'm not the biggest fan of either of these characters, but I do like this relationship in the sense that I feel like they deserve each other. I know that we've seen Breeze is not as shallow as he seems and does try to use his allomancy for good and to help out his friends. However, we've also seen both use their allomancy for very petty reasons with few qualms. Neither seem to have a ton of depth and are very simple in not wanting to give up much up if it means losing the finer things in life. I 100% agree with you guys that I would love to see more stories about the Khandra from Brandon. Marsh would be pretty awesome one to get more on too, since he seems to fall off the face of the planet. Yeah, in that last book especially. It would be very interesting to hear more about the lives of the Inquisitors and whatever it is he gets up to. Thank you as always for a fun show to listen to. I'm so excited for you guys to get to the end of the series and hear everyone's reactions. Wasing to the time of next, Angela 2.
So, yeah, I'd like to see the lives of the Inquisitors. What do they do in their spare time? Are they just chilling on the couch? Does one of them own a craft brewery?
We talked about Carr and his wife going to dinner with the Lord Ruler. It was very, now that I think about it, that whole skit that you guys did of that was very the first episode of WandaVision where the boss and his wife are coming for dinner.
Oh, yes. Tell us your story. What is it?
Where are you from? Jeez, why is this so hard? Oh, poor Carr. He's gone. We'll never know about him and his wife.
He was kind of a dick.
He was a lot of a dick, but that's beside the point. So anyway, thank you, both of you, for your emails, for answering Joe's query. If anyone else wants to send us emails for any reason, it is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can add us on Twitter at thesanderlanche or on Instagram at thesanderlanche. We're on Facebook, the Sanderlanche. You should be sensing a pattern at this point.
Remember the E on the end.
Yes, with an E.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
It's like Avalanche.
Yes,
but
it is
Sanderlanche.
We are in all the places. You can find us, say things at us, yell at us about how we don't love Spook enough. It's all good.
Yep.
For next time, 5 chapters again, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So if you're reading along, 5 more chapters, a lot of short ones this time. All 3 of the middle chapters are real short. So,
do you think he just got tired? But when he got to this book, he's just like, that's long enough. Just throw it in there.
Well, it's kind of interesting because when you get to I've got a bunch of the stuff outlined already for future books, and the next book that we would be reading, Elantris, it starts out with we'd be doing 2 or 3 chapters at a time, 2 for the most part, and then as you get towards the end of the book, it's 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then 6, and it's the chapters get shorter and shorter as you get closer to the end. And
yeah, he was just getting tired of writing.
That's not exactly what's happening here. But
I'm just going to throw in the exposition. Here it is.
I feel like exposition would make it longer, wouldn't it?
I mean, not if you're good at it.
Okay. Sure.
I
was thinking about that about Final Fantasy VII when you said Avalanche, and so it doesn't surprise me that we ended up there.
Right.
Okay, so yes. Let us know things. Send us things. Add us on things. Leave us reviews. We haven't gotten any new reviews yet for Joe to hand out some more titles, but I've been keeping an eye out. Most of the listeners we get, a good 35% seems to be from Spotify, and Spotify doesn't have a give this a rating. So that's a third of our audience right there that can't rate us unless they go and open Apple Podcasts separately from where they listen to their podcasts. So I don't blame you.
Those are all the Joe Rogan people who switched over to Spotify.
Yeah, we only get 9% of our audience from Apple Podcasts. So, but that is the main place that I look for reviews. So there's we get about the same number from Podbean actually, directly from Podbean, about 8 or 9%. Interesting. Anyway,
well, if you want to send in a review and you don't, you're on Spotify or whatever, just email it.
Email nice things to us or mean things. I'll take anything. Just whatever.
Yeah, we'll put the brain in the robot.
Let us know what you think. Music by Miracle of Sound. I'll throw that out there. And Wasing to the Time of Next, everyone. That was very abrupt.
Bring out the brother in me.
No, not the song.
As the towers of steel and stone crumble to dust, the foundations of our hope begin to rust. Choking fear, screaming sound, as a reaper comes to ground. You turn to face it down because you must.